Thanks to a partnership between the NBA, HP, and Microsoft, Dominique Wilkins was at a local Atlanta Best Buy this past weekend, signing autographs and meeting with fans to help promote the launch of Windows 7, as well as some of HP's awesome new TouchSmart computers. Thanks to BleacherReport.com, I was able to meet with Dominique for a few minutes before he met with the fans and ask him a few questions. All right, well, hey, I'm Justin McTeer from BleacherReport.com, here with Dominique Wilkins, the Human Highlight Film. Is that okay if I reference?
Hey, call me what you want, just call me.
It's a good nickname. It's a good nickname. Asking him a couple questions at the HP Windows 7 promotion here in Atlanta, Georgia. Dominique, a couple questions. Okay. First, actually, the first thing I want to know is, do you have anything for like wrist cramps after you sign that many autographs, or is it
a lot of ice, baby?
A lot of ice. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of ice.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, I got a couple quick questions for you. First of all, I know that you were with the Hawks for 11 seasons, I think.
11 and a half seasons. 11
and a half seasons, and now you're on the other side of things in the management. The team. How has being involved in the management of a professional team changed your kind of perspective of the game and the whole league and all that?
Well, it's basically the same. You're just doing it in a suit instead of a uniform. But the corporate side is different in the sense that you're dealing with people's lives, and you see the game from a different perspective. You see all the mistakes people make, you see all the good things they make. And things when you're playing, the game is moves so fast, you just don't notice a lot of things that happens on the floor that a coach sees, that sometimes the educated fan sees. But it's a different perspective when you're in the management side instead of an actual player.
All right. Well, talking about when you were a player, you were part of a lot of all-star teams. You had a great career. What if you could pick one thing from your career that would stand out as kind of the most memorable moment, accomplishment, whatever it would be? What would you say?
That's a hard question. I mean, because there were so many memorable moments. It's just hard to pick one thing and say stands out more than the other. There were so many things that I was able to accomplish and witness. But I think the things for me that stands out is the type of talent that I played against night in, night out, the legends that was in the league. Basically, I played against a legend every night. That whole era, the late 70s, early 80s, was unbelievable.
Well, I know you mentioned that, and you're part of what a lot of people would consider to be perhaps the greatest era of the NBA in terms of all the legends that came out, all the great teams. I mean, if you had to say, what would you think is the thing that's the most different about the NBA today versus the era that you played in?
Well, I think guys play more of a true position. Back when I played, small forward was small forward, power forward was power forward. We didn't play both because the power forward position had a license to kick the butt, basically. And the game was very physical. I think the physical aspect of it, some of it's been kind of taken away, some of the rule changes, but the game is played the same. The game is played the same. You can't change that. And I think those are the most significant things that's changed from the day's game to when we played. I would have never thought about playing power forward.
Well, you're talking about, now, obviously players today, maybe play more positions. It's not quite as defined. But if you had to pick one, player from right now that you feel like, his game is the most similar to your game, who do you think you would pick?
That's a good question. Probably a mixture of guys. I would probably say a little bit of Wade as far as how he attacks the basket. Vince Carter, how he elevates his game to a different level in the air. It's a mixture of guys. I would say just one guy that I would actually say pattern myself after.
Now,
or they pattern themselves after me.
That's true.
The way you want to look at it. Yeah.
Well, I guess this would be the $1 million question about those guys, though, is if you had to say that at your prime, they're and I'm not saying you're not in your prime. Right. I'm saying, do you think you could take them?
Really, we answer that question?
I do.
That's an unfair question.
This is a Dominique. I guess it's a Dominique Wilkins, Dwayne Wade, SmackDown right now.
No. We played different positions. He's a true guard. I was small forward.
Right.
And I love Dwayne Wade. I love the way he plays the game. Kobe, LeBron, and those type of guys. They play the game on a different level.
We'll say Vince Carter. There you go. We'll have it.
Well, I don't believe in comparisons, but I look at the era I played in. And like I said, when you have to play against a great player every night, that defines who you are. If you can compete on that same level night in and night out, that tells you where your place is in the whole, I would say, the history of the game. You put yourself in a very high spot. I mean, you can compete on that level against the greatest players every single night, and you can play just as good or better. That really defines who you are as a player.
Absolutely.
So if you're asking me what would I've done, well, put it this way here. If you couldn't touch me, instead of having 25 or 30, I probably have 40.
Yeah.
If that put it in perspective for you.
So it's with the game being less physical today, you know, and not less physical.
The thing is, the game is always played the same, like I said. But when you can touch someone, back when we played, where you can put your hand on a guy's hip or use your elbow and just throw him off a little bit, it makes it a little harder for him to score.
Gotcha.
But when you can't touch anybody, it's a whole different game.
All right. Well, hey, a couple more quick ones. But you talked about playing, you know, going up against legendary competition and having defining moments, you know, night in, night out. And definitely, what a lot of people would say were some of those defining moments for you were those epic slam dunk contests between you and Michael Jordan. You know, you won in '85, then in '87 in Chicago, 2 points. And I guess the question I have is, do you think that the Chicago home crowd, you know, do you think that those 2 points?
Well, it was always a little home cooking, any way you play. But you know what? I use slam dunking as a tool for intimidation. It really wasn't who I was, but because they had dunks that was very dramatic. Everybody thought I dunked every basket, and I tell people all the time, you know, it's hard to score 26,000 points on dunks.
Yeah.
You know, so I kind of created ways to score. You know, went to the free throw line, had an in-between mid-range game, I could shoot three, post up, all these different things. I'm only dunked maybe twice a game on average.
So because of highlight films
because
and all that stuff,
highlight
that's what
film,
people remember.
Dominique, two-time slam dunk winner.
Right.
Like, I did other things, you know. But it was fine. It's something that people love to watch, and that's fine. I tried to entertain people, but it was, for me, it was a tool that I used. It wasn't who I was.
Gotcha. And I guess, you know, quick question about the area. You know, you played for UGA for 3 years, and you know, played for the Atlanta Hawks for so long. So you've been a part of the Georgia, you know, community for a long time. And you know, what does this community mean to you in terms of
everything? I mean, even though I wasn't born and raised here, I feel like I'm from here because I've been here so long in the city of Atlanta. The fans have treated me like a native son. So this is a very, very important city to me.
Now, one more question about that. You know, one of the biggest differences between today's guys and in the NBA and you know, not that long ago is how early they go into the NBA. And even now with the new rule where you have to be in school for a year, you know, a lot of them still go after 1 year. And you stayed for 3 years, which I think is how long Jordan and
Well, it was just
a lot of
hard.
guys-
It was hard to come out of high school in my era. I came out with probably the greatest high school class in history, and not one went pros out of high school. I mean, that tells you how tough and physical this league. When you look at a guy like Carmelo Anthony, who I think is a super player, one of the best players in the league. He went a year or two in college. He got some seasoning, so when he came to the NBA, he was ready. You know, and some guys are exceptions to the rule, like LeBron James and Kobe. They're exceptions to the rule, but they were ready before they came to the league. Someone prepared them guys to be ready to play in the league. So not many guys can do that.
Are you a fan of guys staying longer and getting more, you know?
Well, yeah, I'm a fan of some guys staying longer. It depends on the guy, because some kids come out early and never make it, or they might stay 2 or 3 years in the NBA and you never hear from them again. So I think those kids get lost in the shuffle. But the exceptional ones, like the Kobe, like the LeBron James, and guys like that, Tracy McGrady, you know, those guys are exceptions to the rule.